We're doing the Mossberg doubleheader. Last video was pre-war. This video, post-war. We're going to talk about Mossberg history. We're going to talk about Mossberg family ownership. We're going to talk about designers. We're going to talk about Mossberg. Let's check it out. Syrup Garage. Back with another Mossberg. These things are a bottomless pit for collectors. Let me tell you. The different versions, different accessories, different models. It is never ending. This one is the model 151 MB. Manufactured from 1948 to 1954. 22 long rifle, 15 round, tubular magazine in the buttstock, 20-inch barrel, Mannlicher stock. That is where the M comes from in MB. And the sights are interesting. We have the S130 rear aperture on here. Don't see that every day. And one that's unique to me in my collection now, the S101 front sight. It is missing a sight hood, but it is an interesting sight. It has an adjustable aperture here. We'll take a look at it later. For now, what I'd really like to do, because, see, we're having a problem here on the channel. We used to really talk patents, big time. We used to show them. We used to go over them. Now listen, true, I didn't tear these things apart and read them and go line by line and analyze them like that. But we did pay a lot of attention to the different patents. And since we can't really show the patents anymore, and I'll show you why. So another video was taken down, was the Marlin video that we had up there. The Levermatic. And they squashed it. I appealed it. Thankfully, this time, it's unlike the last occurrence with the Springfield Model 67F video. This one they reinstated, but even though they might reinstate the video on appeal, just by knocking it down has an effect. And here's by looking at the analytics of the video, you could plainly see the video's on an upward trajectory of the amount of viewers that are watching it. The shaded area is the normal, where my videos would normally be. So you see, you kind of wonder, did it really violate any policy, or was it just that, look at how popular that video was. Look at the trajectory it was on to be so much more popular than my normal videos. And then look at what happens. All of a sudden, boom. So they might have reinstated it, but that seems throttled somehow to me. Just want you guys to know the attack on the channel continues. And you know, that's serious business when they strike these videos. Like, I don't know what they're watching, you know, because I'm not showing how to manufacture guns. All of the criteria that they show, that things you're not allowed to show, I'm not doing. I'm not showing how to modify a gun to be fully automatic. I'm not showing anything that they say I'm not allowed to show. And they're getting struck like this anyway. And it's only a matter of time before someone that doesn't even know what they're looking at thinks they're seeing me modify it, and I'm really not. And I get a strike, and then I get another strike, and then the channel's gone. That's what's going to happen. So if one day you don't see me here, I'm giving a prediction. That's what happened. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Mossberg. Mossberg is a family-owned company. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've done so many of these Mossbergs, and we're always showing the designs. I want to kind of show like a little bit about who these people are, and kind of like So a lot of the ones that we show, see, like here's our Mossberg Chronology. Okay, here is the chronology we always use. Somebody asked me on like in the comments, like, where do I find that? Just do a Google search for Mossberg Chronology, and it's going to come up. It's it's the Mossberg. Might even be the Mossberg Collectors Association. Might even be that Havlin group. I mean, I'm not really sure, but it's definitely, you're going to see it. It's going to pop up. It's nice. It's in a PDF format. You can print it out. Highlight the ones you got. Could kind of like be like a checklist, like how I use it. You could look at this like page 1 right here. This is page 1. This is kind of like pre-war. So you see the Model B that we just did in the last video is way up on top there, 1931, 32. Not the oldest Mossberg, but up on the top of the first page. That's the first one I ever had on this first page. This is all pre-war. These, for the most part, when you find them, the problem why I see some of these here and there, but the reason why I never grab them is because these are the ones that they're older, so they're obviously usually a bit more beat up. You know, these Mossbergs, they worked, okay? So people used them. And going through the Depression, a 22 rifle was a real handy tool to have around. I'll tell you, you know, if there was a rabbit running through the yard, you were eating rabbit. And these things were very, very popular. You see them at the gun shows, and if they're in good condition, they're a lot of money. And I've seen them like that, and I'll pass. Then there's like these military trainer ones that are an absolute fortune. And then there's the ones that are affordable, they seem to be dogged. The reason why I gravitate to page number, check this out, page number 2 here. So page number 2 is mostly the post-war. And the thing about this page number 2 here, is that when you find these, for the most part, they're complete. They could be in good shape. They're not necessarily dogged. You do see dogged ones, but you do see ones that are in really nice shape and complete. Like they'll have the sling, they'll have the sights, they'll have all the little doodads that are supposed to be on them, unmodified, I guess is what I mean. That's kind of like why I always gravitated towards this second page more. But if you really dig into the family history, you can see that this first page and this second page has a lot of significance that way too. So let's start here. Let's just take a look. I'm just going to do a quick burn through. I'm going to give these family members and when they were born and when they died. And you can see kind of like how they fit into the timeline of the Mossberg company and where the lineage came from. So Oscar Frederick Mossberg, O.F. Mossberg, company named after him, obviously O.F. Mossberg and Sons. He was born in 1866. He died in 1937. So he died before this rifle was even made. What's interesting is 37 is just about the start of the war. So you could look at that first page as when O.F. Mossberg was alive. A lot of the patents are from him back in the day, in that beginnings of that first page, So he started O.F. Mossberg and Sons in 1919. If you want to know a little bit of the history before that, I got a touch on it there in my last video. That was a much older rifle. That rifle is with 1931 to 32. Was that one made? Yeah, 31 to 32. So I started talking about the history way back when he first started the company. And that got me thinking about maybe delving a little further here with one like this, because we've been so much on this second page. So he started this company in 1919 with his 2 sons. Harold Mossberg, he was born in 1897. He died in 1964 at 67 years old. And his other son, Ivor Mossberg, he was born in 1895. He died in 1945 at 50 years old. He died pretty young. So these guys, in their early mid-20s with their dad, started O.F. Mossberg Sons in 1919. And I think Harold originally was really running the company. And his dad and Ivor might have still been working for Marlin. I think that was the last place that they were. They were working with Swabelius, the designer over there in Marlin, and they made their way over to work with, like his Mossberg. He couldn't have his own company and be working for Marlin, so it was like his son really started the company, Harold, and Ivor and Oscar kind of rolled on over when when the company was rolling already. You know what I mean? So this was a partnership. That partnership dissolved in 1926, and a corporation was formed under the name O.F. Mossberg and Sons Inc. And this is the company that survives to this day, the same companies. 1926 technically was the beginning of that company. So Harold, he was the guy that had the affinity for design, and Ivor assumed kind of like management, business operations, and he eventually became the president of the company after his father died in 1937. So Harold was kind of like the designer. And back on this first page, you'll see a lot of patents from the first page of this chronology are from Harold, Oscar, and Ivor. And if you've watched any of my, back through my Mossberg videos, any of my frequent watchers have seen different types of things that things we're going to cover on this rifle and other things that we've covered on some of the other rifles, where you'll be familiar with these things. And this way I could call out what some of these patents were. So this front sight that I just showed you with these fold down blades on it or whatever, that was Harold. Should I actually read these to you right here, or put these in the comments or something? I'll just read these to you here. So if you get out a pen and paper, pause it, get out a pen and paper if you're really interested in checking out these patents, as I hate to not be able to just show them, but I want you to be able to look at them yourself if you want to. So that sight with the fold down blades, that was Harold, 2132489. Oscar did the what they call the sling connecting device. Okay. This one from Harold was 1038. That was when this the year that came out. I'll just give the year. It was 38. This one from Oscar with the sling connecting device. So these sling swivels, they're pretty interesting. Only Mossberg sling swivels work this way. And I think there's a couple of different variations of them. But the first variation, the first ones came with Oscar's patent. That was 2102964. That was in 1937. The combined trigger guard and finger grip. So these plastic finger guards that these Mossbergs are so identifiable by, that was from 1938. That was Ivor's patent. That patent is DES 110729. I've seen this a lot, and I think the DES designates it as a design patent, not a, I guess they would all be a design, right? I don't know why. For some of them, they have this DES, because it's not like he's patenting a trigger guard. He's just patenting the way it's put together. Somehow it's classified differently. But if you look it up under DES 110729, you'll see it. Harold patented the takedown having a recessed screw. Okay, so just recessing the screw in there like that. And this one, it even has one up front with the Mannlicher stock. Putting that recessed screw in there was a patent. The takedown was patented that way. That was Harold's in 1939, 2145054. Harold again, the rear sight, the aperture sight, the S100, that's his. That's 2405512. And I don't think it was the S100. I think it was the one before that. It was the aperture sight before that. But this one is kind of following the same patent. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an updated patent, but it was originally Harold's. And the model 51, the original rifle. So this 151 was an updated version of the Model 51. That was Harold's patent in 1944. And that was 2339027. So you see, these brothers, they were patenting. Harold, most of the patents. So the differences in this model from the Model 51 were it has a slimmer stock, an improved action, sturdier and simpler firing pin, a newly designed bolt, and dovetail grooves milled into the top of the receiver. These were all on all the 100 series that were designed specifically for Mossberg's M4 scope. So let's get back to the Mossberg history. We're going to jump right back over here. Just remember where we're at here with Harold designing the 51. So this is what I want to do. I want to run right through Mossberg's history through the period of when these post-war guns were made, and not quite to the modern times. I don't know what's going on or who owned it or whatever now, but we're going to kind of end off somewhere around the Gun Control Act of 1968, around there. So where were we? Harold had an affinity for design, and Ivor was kind of doing the business operations. So Ivor hired Walter L. Pearson away from Marlin in 1939. This might have been one of his dad's old friends. And he became the executive vice president of the company. And this Pearson guy must have been a real good friend of Oscar's, because this guy stayed, and of the family, because this guy stayed the executive vice president of the company all the way through to the mid 60s, all the way to when I end this whole timeline. This guy was basically the executive vice president of the company. So Ivor Mossberg, he died after a short illness in 1945. He died young at 50 years old. So his brother Harold assumed the role of president of the company, and Ray Sawin became vice president, with Pearson continuing as executive vice president and as a member of the board. This was the first time that any position on the board was held by someone that was outside the immediate family. So I'm telling you, this Pearson guy was like family to them, you know. Ivor Mossberg's son. So this was the guy that took us through this era with this guy right here. So Ivor Mossberg's son, Alan Ivor Mossberg. So he lived from 1932 to 2021. He only died a couple of years ago. He was only 12 years old when his father died in 1937. Okay, so it wasn't like he just rolled right into the head of the company there, but he started working there as soon as he possibly could. I'm sure he was working there even at 12. You know what I mean? He was there a lot, and he learned how to do everything. And he was 18 years old when the Model 151 was released in 1946, just to give you some perspective. Carl Benson. This guy entered the picture. He was a chief designer for Mossberg from the late 40s to the early 70s. This guy started with Marlin in 1925. He was an apprentice with Swabelius as well. He had, a lot of the same background as Oscar. So this takes us all the way to 1962 with Harold still as the CEO, Ray Swan as president now, Paul Jacobson as vice president of production, general manager, Pearson still executive vice president. He's still in there. Carl Benson was the vice president of research and development. This Carl Benson guy, we're going to touch on him a little bit. He's basically that whole second page is all his patents, a lot of patents for Mossberg from this guy as the VP of research. Harold Mossberg, he died in 1964. And after about 3 years, movement around in the company, the rightful heir, took over. 35-year-old Alan Mossberg, Harold's son, became president of the company in 1967. Interesting time for Mossberg because the Gun Control Act of 1968 was very weird for Mossberg. They had to diversify because the Gun Control Act of 1968 changed where you couldn't get guns through the mail anymore. You know, back then you used to be able to just buy a gun in a catalog and have it shipped to your house. It was a different time. 1968 was the first of the gun control acts that were serious, and they changed everything. They were very, very restrictive compared to. It might not seem restrictive now, but they were very, very restrictive back then because things were pretty loose. And for Mossberg, it really mattered because they did a tremendous amount of catalog sales. And not only that, the way the business was done, if you had a rifle that broke and the parts were obsolete, they didn't have a part for it to fix or something like that, or they would just send you a new one or give you like half off a new one. There was a lot of sending guns back and forth in the mail. Oh, this one's broken. Here, we'll give you this one. There was a lot of that going on. And they couldn't do that anymore because everything all had to be everything all had to be serial numbered and kept track of, and even just keeping track of everything, of the serial numbers of everything is daunting for a company as big as Mossberg. See how many different models they have and all of that stuff. So for a company like them with all these different models and all these different guns, very difficult. So they moved into other industries like a sporting goods field with campers, canoes. It's wild if you research that stuff. Trailers, sailboats, scopes for rifles, bicycles, golf clubs, gun racks, leather goods, all kinds of accessories. There was just no more exchanging going on of obsolete models. It kind of changed the entire way the company functioned. You know, back before 1968, Mossberg was more than just a name. You know, they did business in a certain way, in a very family businessy kind of way. You know what I mean? That if you bought a Mossberg gun, you were like part of the family. Like if you called up and, you would talk to somebody's niece, somebody with the last name Mossberg, and you're saying, hey, this one's broken. They'd say send it in, and if they couldn't fix it, they treat you like family. They just send you a replacement. You know what I mean? No questions asked. Here you go. Here's another one. You can't do that after 1968. You can't just send a different gun. You'd have to trash the one that's there through. Everything has to be all FFL. You know what I mean? So let's go back again now to these differences from the Model 51 to the 151. So the 151M was introduced in 46. The M had just a sporterized stock. Here we go. I have a 151K. So let's see this is where the 151 first started, was this sporterized stock right here. See? And it's definitely like a beefier, thicker stock. This is where the 151 first started. Is that true? Actually, it's listed first on the chronology, but is it first time-wise? Let's see. 151K was no, actually, it was definitely released during the period where see, that's the thing about this chronology. It's not really a chronology. It's kind of in like alphabetical order for each individual model. So you got to kind of search around to see where the first one was. I guess the 151M was the earliest one. So forget about that. Forget about the K model. It's like I never mentioned it. I love that 151K though. That scope on there is awesome. So what are the differences? Let's go back to that again. Where were we? Uh-oh, I'm losing it. No, I'm back. I got it back. The Model 151M was introduced in 1946. The 151MA, they added a S130 peep sight to replace the S100. That was 47 to 48. The 151MB, this guy right here, had a revised stock and a molded butt plate. That was 48 to 54. the 151C, the change to the S137 site, and that was 54,258. Now, an interesting thing is it's supposed to be the plastic molded butt plate for the MB. That's the only thing listed on the B that's supposed to be different. And I have this is definitely metal right here. I promise you, I was going to stick a magnet on it. My magnet is gone. I don't know where it went. But this is definitely metal. So I don't know if somebody changed this out or someone swapped the stock. I don't know what's going on. This is definitely an early version. I'll tell you how I know that, because of some other accessories that are on it. Maybe it's an early one that didn't yet get the molded buttstock. The molded one looks a little bit more like that, plastic. Don't know what happened there. But it's not on there, but it is marked the MB on the scrolling. So what were the design revisions and improvements by Carl Benson for, for like, say, his patents, right? Here are some of his patents. Get out your pen and paper again if you want to check out these. Cartridge ejector. So he changed the way the ejectors worked on these series from the, say from the 51 to the 151, the 100 series guns. That patent is 2484444. That was 1949. The firing mechanism and safety he changed. This is all his updates to bring. All these post-war ones have like these updates. That one is patented 52. That one is 2585620. And you put a US, go to Google Patents and you put a US before each one of these. So it would be US 2585620. It'll pop up. You could PDF it, you could print it, you could look at the body of it, you could do whatever you want with it. I want you to look at these. This tells you there's no way I'd be able to cover this much information that you'd be able to get just looking through these, And it's cool to, like, if you have one of these guns, what I do is I print all this stuff up. When I study it and I look at it, I fold it all in half. I don't staple anything because I don't want anything to hurt the gun. I don't staple them. I just fold all the papers in half and I put them in the gun case with that particular rifle. So if I ever open up the case, taking out, there's all the paperwork for that specific one. I even put my notes that I do these videos on inside of there too, because, there's a lot of information on those just from the notes I take and the research I do. And I keep it inside the gun case. So you can put these patents inside the gun case. There's more. Firing mechanism. That's a good one for the Carl Benson to see what he did. You see how the bolt, it'll be familiar to you. That one is 59, and that's 2926446. I hope I didn't forget to give you any of these numbers when I was mentioning them, but you could just, when you look up one, you could click on Carl Benson's name on Google Patents. That's what's cool about it, and it'll pull up all of them. You know what I mean? So you don't necessarily have to type each one of these in. You could just click on his name and then scroll through for these numbers that I'm giving you and just go from one to the next. He also, so you could just look through. I won't give you all these patent numbers, but look through and find these, because he's the one. You remember those adjustable mags that can adjust for short, long, and long rifle, the adjustable box magazines? His invention. Those guns that have the folding forend, that monopod? His invention. Remember our Model 200 shotgun? It's like the predecessor to the Model 500 shotgun. His patent, the Model 500. Come on, the Mossberg 500 shotgun. Benson. Need I say more? That's what I'm talking about. Now, where are we going? So here's some of the interesting stuff with this rifle. I'm going to show you the sights. I'm going to show you some stuff. I want to thank Classic Firearms and Parts LLC. I can't link to them. That's one of the things we're not allowed to do anymore. But I can mention them and tell you that they're an awesome company. They have a ton of Mossberg parts, and they let me, I shouldn't say I used these pictures. I hope they don't mind. But I used a lot of pictures here from their site to be able to designate some of these different variations of the Mossberg stuff. Let me tell you, when you want to do research on these guns, right? There might be somebody that a Mossberg fan that has a website. Let's say there's places like that where they break stuff down and they say, but a lot of times, they're very vague. They'll be like, yeah, there were two versions of sights. There was two versions of bolt handles, and there's an early and a late version of this. It's like some info here, some info there. They're fans. They'll tell you some stuff that interests them, maybe, but maybe not everything. One cool place to get information, and thorough information, not just what somebody's interested in and they don't tell you about other stuff, everything, is a place that sells parts. Numrich was always a good one for like their diagrams. They show diagrams and they break the gun down into each individual part because they want to make sure if you need the smallest part that you know exactly what to ask for and they can supply it for you. So they show you these breakdown drawings, and we could just use them just as a side note, just to be like, here's a exploded diagram of the parts, of how it works and how they go together, and you could use that. So these firearm parts guys, they want to break down everything. If you need a front sight to this rifle, they want to be able to be like, no, there's two versions though. You got to be careful because they don't want you to buy something and then it doesn't fit. So they'll be like, they'll have detailed photographs of every little possible option and variation. And if that's the kind of stuff you're into, that's the kind of place to find it. You might not need to buy a part, but they're a great resource for that. I remember a friend of mine told me that he hates eBay. He would never buy anything off eBay. He goes, I think eBay is so stupid. I don't want to deal with people. I just want to deal with companies, professional. He didn't like eBay to buy stuff from, right? But he always used to say, it's the greatest resource. It's like an encyclopedia for looking at anything. He's like, if you want to know what something looks like, just look it up on eBay. I don't even go to anything else. I just go to eBay and look it up because guaranteed somebody's selling it and they took 97 pictures of it from every single angle. And he's right. And it's kind of like the way I feel about these companies like this. And I'm pretty sure that Classic Firearms and Parts LLC, that sells a bunch of Mossberg stuff, probably wouldn't mind that I'm showing you these pictures, hopefully. So here's some of the stuff that's weird inside of this rifle. There is a cartridge cutoff where there's an early and a late version of it. One is like this flat metal plate, and the other one looks like this spring right here. Okay. There's a front sight, the S101. Here is the S. So this S101, it has all these different apertures that could fit inside of it. So I don't have the hood over the top. I was gonna buy it, and then I'm looking. It's like, I don't know. It's just expensive for no reason, and it's annoying. So I don't think I'm gonna get this sight hood, but it does protect this mechanism, and the mechanism of the sight works well. It works well enough, and I really should protect it. So I guess I'm gonna find one of these someplace, and I'm just gonna buy it. But without the sight hood, you can really take a look and see how it works. Let's can we zoom in here maybe a little bit? We'll take a look. So it has a button. Looking for a good place to put this. It has a button right here that you press that releases these guys. And I'm lucky enough to have all of them in here. There's 4 of them. And they all move to the side. And you could just pick one of these to push up to be your aperture. See that? And yeah, I guess, you definitely need the hood because it goes inside of a gun bag. I fold them all down like this, but it needs the sight hood to protect it, absolutely. And the rear aperture sight, pretty cool. It's nice that it has this disc. A lot of times this disc is missing for some reason, you lose it. Awesome rear sight. I love those aperture sights. The trigger guard had 2 variations. Okay, there's one that is just flat on the top and one that has like a bulge in it for some reason. And I saved this one for last. This is why I even wanted to. Oh, and you know what's interesting? The barrel here. Part of the design of this rifle that Mossberg moved into making rifles like this. One of the coolest things about them was that it was just one integral piece, the barrel and the receiver. Remington did this too. This was like a way. It was a way that they revolutionized rifle making to make it cheaper, to make it affordable. And you know, I use this word cheaper sometimes, and people get upset and they say like, you know, these guns were not made cheaper. As a matter of fact, those are better quality than the ones before. This cheaper does not necessarily mean that's made of a lesser quality. Cheaper, I use a lot just to say Mossberg was able to produce rifles cheaper. So they could pass on that savings to the customer or just be a successful company, let's say, because it didn't cost a lot of money. Lowering the cost of production, especially after the war, that became a big thing. And that's where you get like, you know, Marlin, the pre-63 thing. That's exactly where that stuff comes from. Even Remington went through a period like that. Winchester went through a period like that where they made stuff to lower the cost of production, let's say. So another one of the variations, this is one that's really interesting, which will affect when you see our shooting video with this guy. So this bolt handle, these bolt handles are used both as a safety. So if you push it back here, you see there's two notches in this slot right here, right? You push it back to this notch and you use some pressure to push it in, it clicks into a safety notch right there, which would be a safe. It even takes the bolt a little bit off the round even, so you don't even have to worry about drop firing or anything like that, right? So that's a safe spot. And then you could also all the way back here lock it open. Okay? That slot that's way in the back right here is for when you take it apart, that the bolt comes back that far and you could lift the bolt handle out. That's what that's for. It's like a takedown slot. So that's what these two slots up here in the front are for. You see in between those slots, there's a lot of wear there on that metal. You see that, right? A lot of rubbing mark. Well, if you look at our other one, this guy might not have that many rounds through it as the other one, but see, there's considerably less of that rubbing there. And you can see we have the newer style bolt handle. This is the older style bolt handle. You can see where they might have changed this. Let me show you. So this thing's having some issues where, I cleaned it really good. Every once in a while, you would shoot, and when you went to pull the trigger again, so bang, right? You go to pull the trigger again, and you would just get this, like dead trigger. When you open it up and you look in there, they would be around in the chamber. So the bolt would come back far enough. And I'm going to show you with the realistic snap caps, this gun kind of works in a weird way too. It's kind of interesting. We're going to have to zoom in for that, but we'll get to that later. Let's get the realistic snap caps out. So I'll just leave it here so I don't forget. The realistic snap caps, by the way, are a realistic, what do you know? And this is a way we could do function testing with totally inert rounds. You don't want to even be messing around cycling, especially rimfire, through a gun. The round could get caught sideways, a protruding firing pin. I could tell you a million different reasons. A sear they might be worn and they could drop. And unless you're at a range doing some testing where you could test with live ammo, there's also live ammo testing too, but this is not a range. I'm just in the garage. We're in the Mannlicher garage. Nothing goes bang in the Mannlicher garage. Absolutely not. So we have to use totally inert rounds. And before we even started this video, this little baggie, I keep them specially separate in a little baggie like this, and I check them, and they are all definitely our realistic snap caps. There's no live ammo right in this general area anyway, and that's always a good principle to keep. All right, safety discussion over for now. So every once in a while, I would find a round in here triggered dead, as if it didn't cycle far enough, right? And what I would have to do is, and you'll see in the shooting video, I'd have to drop because there's pressure in the mag pushing the next round up. So if I would just cycle this, the next round would feed up into the one that's in the chamber. So what I would have to do is release the tension by pulling out the magazine tube like this, relaxing all around, tilting the gun back so all the rounds slide back out of the way. Then I'd have to pull it all the way back and release it to charge it, right? So just to cock it. And then I'd push the magazine tube back in, lock it back in again, and be able to fire. You can, by the way, you don't have to dry fire these things. If it's charged, right now it would go bang. You could push the bolt back this far, and then the hammer will kind of fall on the bolt. You could ride the hammer down like that. So what I think was happening is that the bolt needs to, so where does it actually charge? See, it's not charged there. It's not charged there. It's charged there. So if the bolt would get caught on the edge of this right there, it would be just enough room, possibly, it would slow it down just enough where it would feed around but not be able to charge. And we could actually test this with the realistic snap caps. Let's just do it right now. Let's test it right now. So that's what I'm thinking was happening. And I think that's maybe why they revised this. And what I could do is I could take the bolt handle off of here, this new revised one. I could take this off here. This does not get caught at all. It could just be that there's just, whatever. It's just a ding in that makes it get caught or wear. But I could take the that newer bolt handle, put it in this gun, and then see if it doesn't get stuck like that. It does it maybe once every other mag, And another thing, instead of loading the full 15 in here, then it's really hard to get this. For me, it's hard to get this closed. I just put 10 in here every time, and this way I don't have to struggle. But let's try that. Let's mess around. Let's see how it actually functions here. 2, 3, 4. That one's backwards. 5. Should we just put 5? 6. Let's just put 6. So we got 6 in here. Now what we'll do, we'll charge it. Let's see if we can zoom in a bit, just a little bit. Let's charge it. Let's charge it. Now it's interesting. See how it charged? Look, there's a round in the chamber. Can you see it in there? Wild, right? It didn't not like a conventional gun where the bolt came back and the round was there or connected to the bolt or laying up here and then the bolt pushed it in. There's like a cartridge stop and a spring, and however the mechanism works, when you pull the bolt back, it shoots around right into the chamber. That's a wild, wild design. So now, I don't want to drop the hammer on these things because it will dent the rim. But let's just say, bang, we fired. We'll just operate the action. So when we operate the action, I'm just going to pull it back, right? Pull it back, we extract the round. And look, it's in there already. It's in the chamber. That's wild, right? I don't know how the hell it does that. I really have to study this design a little bit more. Because when I was having these misfires, I was like, oh, it didn't eject the brass, but it is ejecting the brass. And I'm pulling it back, and I'm like, oh, it didn't eject the brass. But that's a new round in there already. It's wild. So even just by, let's see if I can do it slow. There's the round right there, ready to come up. See it? Let's see if I do it slow. That's wild. It shot it right in there. And the cartridge stop holds the next one from coming up. All right, so now let's just imagine. Can it go back far enough? See, it was just getting stuck right there. Can it go back far enough to eject the round? We ejected. We loaded another one. Now I'm curious. Should we risk it? I'm going to have to risk it and pull the trigger. If we dent one, we dent one. I'm thinking it didn't charge. Oh, it did. It did. So I don't know how that's happening. Let's try it one more time. It only comes back to like right there. That charged it? No, it didn't that time. See? That time it didn't charge it. So that's what's happening. It's just not coming. It's not coming back far enough. And I'm thinking it's because it's getting caught on the edge right there. That's what I'm thinking is happening. How bad did we dent that one? Oh yeah, see? Sometimes we got to do some function testing. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they're replaceable. So yeah, there it goes. That's what's happening. It's not traveling back far enough every single time to cock it. I think it's getting caught right there. See how it got caught right there when I did that? Just enough to slow it down once in a while. So I'm thinking maybe I don't think any smoothing. It looks plenty smooth over there. Anyway, that's the little issue I'm having with this guy. Yeah, look at that. It is a nice strong punch. Firing pin punch on these things. Yep, so shooting it, let me tell you. Here's some evidence of what was going on with me. I'll show you right here. It would do okay through, through one magazine and then get caught up 2 times on the next magazine, And I really should try it out with the other bolt handle and see what happens. It'd be interesting to see. Oh, these realistic snap caps, by the way, if you should visit the company using coupon code Milsurp Garage, one word, MILSURPGARAGE, you get 10% off your order. So pick up some of these 22 snap caps. Trust me, play with your 22s with inert ammunition if you're going to do function testing outside of a range. In a place where you don't want it to fire. Look, even if you're in some place where you're like, well, where I work on my guns, it's okay if it fires. You know, I'm here in my cinder block garage, miles away from any other house. If it goes off, I don't care. What kind of craziness is that? I mean, you could kill the dog, you could kill yourself, it could go through a window, it could go through your head. I mean, it's like if you're function testing, why function test? If you're not looking for it to fire during your function test, why use live ammunition is what I'm saying. I would use live ammunition only if you're putting ammunition in it to take it to some place where you want to see if it fires. That's it. When you get to that point, you got to switch to live ammo. But if you're just checking feeding and stuff like that, like we were just doing, I don't think it's such a good idea. So it is incredibly accurate. I can tell you that. I'm going to pull out some of my targets. I'm going to show you just from, now listen, when I go, I'm just testing these rifles, like I'm just playing around with them. I'm barely even paying attention to the target. I'm just kind of like sighting in and just pulling the trigger. I'm really just getting footage. It's kind of like that. I don't really have my head in it. It's kind of like if an actor was doing something, you know, whatever it is he's doing, and he's to put on film. He's not really concentrating on the actual act. You know what I mean? He's just he's making a film of something. So look at these targets though, with me barely paying attention. And this is just me. I put like maybe 5 magazines through to do that, but that's, look at that. This just, the interesting thing about it is I'm at 50 feet. All right. So it's like, listen, I'm just a terrible shot. Even at 50 feet, I don't have targets, open sight targets at 50 feet that look like this with anything because I'm just terrible. So going by me, you might look at that and say like, oh, that's no big deal for you maybe. But if you saw what most of my targets look like at 50 feet with open sights, they don't look like, I'm not punching out the middle of the targets. There's no flyers on here. There's no flyers out here. You're telling me that that's the furthest one. In the last ring, there's one in that ring, one in this ring, and then everything in here punching out. Look at this one. This does not happen with me. Okay, so I'm telling you, just this aperture sight, number one. I have just terrible vision. I can't like focus a lot of times on these front sights. There's something about the aperture, being that it's like a circle like that you're looking through like a pinpoint. Anybody that wears glasses, you know that trick where if you kind of like make the OK symbol with your fingers, but you make a really, really tiny hole, and you look through that without your glasses, you can see it clear. It like makes takes the blurriness away. So if you don't have your glasses on, you're just trying to. So you wake up in the morning, you can't find your glasses, or you don't really want to put them on. You just want to like look at the digital clock that's on the other side of the room. You could kind of like make a little teeny hole with your finger and look through that little teeny hole, and you'd be able to tell what time it is on the digital clock. I think that's kind of like what's happening with with these aperture sights with me. So it could be the sight. It might not necessarily be the gun per se. You know what I mean? And I doubt it. It's the same as any other Mossberg, but this combination, for me, incredibly accurate. These aperture sights, I could see why they use them, and I like the one that was the post. I was using the little round aperture in the front, but the little post was even better. I raised that up and was doing. Seems like the front sight to me is like razor sharp, and even the way the target is, the level of focus that the target's at even is perfect. And it's almost like I don't even see the rear sight. You know, the rear aperture, I don't even see it. All I know is that if I could see the front sight, I must be looking through. I think that's how the aperture works, is that all you're really looking at is the front sight. You're not lining up sights anymore. Because if you could see the front sight, then you're looking through the aperture properly. I guess that's just the bottom line. That's just the way it goes. So, well, without making too much out of it, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it was amazing. These targets coming back looking like that were amazing. And you can see probably by now we had a couple of the having to pull the tube out. It's like a little bit of a procedure to go through because there's really no other way to clear it. As much as you would cycle it to try to get, you can't get the round that's in there out. It seemed like closing the bolt on that round and trying to grab it and pull it out wasn't happening. There's a little bit of an extractor weakness problem going on too. But I guess if I could grab that round, if the extractor would grab that round, would be able to pull the bolt back. The ejector would kick that round out, cock the gun, and the next round would go into the chamber. But it wasn't working like that. It would just, if I pulled the bolt back, it would leave the round in the chamber, and it would go. The next round would pop up to go in. You see how it pops up like that? It would pop up right into the back of the other one, and then it would be like a total jam. I'd have to lock the bolt open, take the magazine tube out, pop that round out somehow, and then close the magazine tube, and go like that whole procedure. You know what I mean? So it was just easier to do it this way, to just take slack the magazine tube, cycle the action to cock it, and put the magazine tube back. So yeah, I'm thinking that it is that cocking handle, but also there is, to be honest, there is like there's a little bit more effort, it seems, to cock that one than there is the 151K. This does feel like it's sliding a little smoother. Oh, I'm still zoomed in over here. Sorry. It does, well, no, not really. They feel the same. I think the only difference is that this one does that. It gets caught right here. See that? That's what's happening. That's got to be it right there. I just felt it like that with my finger. That's got to be it. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here and figure out a different way, but that's got to be it. And you could see it. You could see it just by the amount of wear right there. So the model 151 MB, we'll put it in the record books. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, do yourself a favor. Get this book. You could get it from Haviland. You could get it from Haviland, the company, the gun parts company, Haviland. Just look in their book section. They have it really cheap. I got it on Amazon. I paid a little bit more for it. I didn't know that Haviland was actually selling it. And then I looked on their website and I saw that they were actually selling it. This is where all of that patent stuff was, all of the, what do you call it? The Carl Benson stuff is all in there. The information on his patents. I'm so glad to finally find a Mossberg book. It had been a long time of me looking, and I could not find one. So, boy, we got a couple more of these. We got a couple more of these gun show finds. How many did I get that day? Might have taken home 4. So how many did we do already? That's 3. I guess there's one more. I guess there's just one more, but it's a big one. So stay tuned. We'll see you all soon. Be well.